This may be hard to imagine, but before the 1990s, the way people got in and out of this church building was completely different than today in the 21st century.
The church ended at the doors here. I mean, the doors in the back of the church were the doors to outside. And I remember when we would come to church, we'd walk on Wisconsin Avenue and come in the front door. If it was nasty, sometimes we'd drive through the porte-cochere and let the kids out and they'd come in that door, or we'd park in the parking lot. The parking lot was the same, and come in this door.
What is now known as the Fireside Room, and this whole part of the building that connects the church and the school, did not yet exist, meaning there was very little space to gather before or after a worship service.
If you look at a lot of our older churches, especially out in the country, you went up the steps into the church. There may have been a little cloakroom or something there where you could hang up your coat, and that was it. Church was over. You went to the back. There was no place to gather. You simply put your coat and hat on and you went home. No coffee and donuts, no.
So in the early 90s, the decision was made to build a new addition, which would join the church and school buildings together. Relative to the size of the existing buildings, this addition might not seem like much. However, this addition would bridge more than just the physical gap.
I think it symbolically connected the two. They weren't two separate buildings. Now they are truly connected. The church and the school are one organization.
I think the church started to flourish more because there was more of a cohesion here. We could go out and visit, and new people could come in informally rather than the formality of what the churches were at that time.
And I particularly liked the fireplace and the angel painting above it. I just thought that it wasn't just a chatty room, it was a constant reminder of this is God's house.
In fact, the stones that make up the fireplace were repurposed from the exterior of the church building that needed to be removed in order to open up the wall and connect it to the new space. Along with connecting the school and church, the church basement was also remodeled at that time, as it wasn't exactly as favorable of a location as it is today.
We had 3 boys, and when we would come to church in the mornings, if they'd get a little bit unruly, that could be my go-to spot. It was dark at the time, it was kind of dreary down there. I could take a folding chair out, turn the lights off, and things got calm very quickly.
Between the Connection Project and renovating the church basement, these were big projects, and the congregation stepped up in big ways to make them both happen.
I think almost all of that lower level was done by members. I remember people like Carl Ganevak or Leroy Schilberg or Stu Schramm and some of those guys just swinging hammers and putting pipes in the walls and making all that come together.
And in addition to the invaluable time and talents of members that were put into renovating the lower levels, treasures were also poured in to this $275,000 addition.
But that was a big step for us. And there was a lot of question of, how would we pay for that? We had some gifts that were given, but then we actually had member loans that we had borrowed from members at a low interest rate in order to be able to pay probably about $250,000. And many of those member loans at the end of the term when we came back and said we're ready to pay back those member loans, many of our members came back and said they'd like to forgive that loan and just give that as a gift to the congregation at that time.
As the 90s came winding down, the number of baptized souls in the church was ramping up. And as it worked its way up to its peak of nearly 1,500 at the turn of the century, St. Matthew's started asking some questions of monumental impact.
What are we doing well as a congregation? Where are some things that we might want to do a little bit differently? And what are some of the future dreams from our members?
We were looking at Oconomowoc like a really growing part of Waukesha County. And we had the Great Commission. And it's like, yeah, we should be doing something here. So what could we do?
And that really shaped up that very first long-range plan.
A long-range plan that would just begin to develop in the decade to come and remind this congregation of just whose timeline we're really on.